Good morning, Year 6, and welcome to your fourth English lesson this week. Today we're going to be looking about researching about colonisation to plan our second paragraph. So I know that we worked on our first paragraph on Tuesday, and yesterday we started to learn about criminals and why they were sort of deported over to Australia. Today we're looking at the actual colonisation side of things, so then we can look at, so we've got a lot of details, a lot of notes, ready for our second paragraph. So today's a lot of note taking. So if you get today's date and English put down in the next part of your book, because that's where you're going to be taking quite a lot of notes. Bit of a rewind first though. Looking at this sentence, do you think it's correct or do you think I need to change something about it? People in Victorian times who committed crimes could be deported to Australia. So I think the fact's correct, isn't it? That's what we looked at yesterday. Is there something that I need to change? So have a quick pause. Have a quick discussion with anybody who will listen to you, such as the dog or the cat or whoever, and explain what you think I need to change for this sentence. So hopefully you've realised that I've tried to include a relative clause in there, but I've done something that quite a few people do and just put the relative pronoun on that card, on my relative clause card here. So I've got the subject of my sentence, the people in Victorian times. I've got what they do, which is being deported to Australia, but the actual clause is who committed crimes. That is the actual clause there. So if I put that over here onto this section, then I also need to add something as well, because now I've got my main clause, which is my green and my orange put together, but I've now got an embedded clause, another clause inside that sentence. So then I still need to put, oh dear, what's happened there? I still need to put a comma on that card, and I still need to put a comma at the end of that card to split that clause up. So hopefully your sentence looks something similar to that, with a capital letter for Victorian times, with a capital letter for Australia, and a full stop at the end. Be honest, did you get all the capital letters in the first place? Right, now we're going to move on to this colonisation. So these sorts of words are the things that you might be reading about today. Aboriginal is the type of people that are native to Australia, who were there before we got there. And the same goes for Indigenous. We call them Indigenous people as well. They're the people who were there at the start as well. So they're the two main words that we'll be looking at. Colonisation, obviously, is a huge one that we're looking at. Settlement is something, or a settler. So a settler is the person who has settled somewhere to live, and the settlement is where they live. And then everything else, I think, is quite, it makes sense. Colonizer is someone who does the colonisation of something. And the other things we'll sort of pick up on as we go along the rest of the day. So you need to get your English sorted out. You need to make some notes as well. Just bullet point notes as well is what you need. Do this in your purple book for me, not little doctor, because you're going to be using this 100% for your paragraph tomorrow. And it's all along, I'm going to show you a bit of a video. It's all about how Australia originally was like, but then how it became British soil as well. Now the video I'm going to post on there is about 7 minutes long. So hopefully, if I can make sure I've got share the correct screen. There, yeah, it's about 7 minutes long. We're only going to watch from a minute in up to about 2.5 minutes. But obviously, you can watch the whole thing if you want to watch the whole thing. Straight away, we can make a note straight away. We know that the Aborigines used to live there, or still do live there, but they're the Indigenous people who lived there. And there was around 300, I think he said, 300 to 700, or was it 400 to 700, somewhere around there, 1,000 of them on this island, which isn't that many, judge at the size of Australia, which is about 6 times as big as Britain, something silly like that. So they're saying there that the early people who were in contact with these people, most of the time they were violent, some of the times they were peaceful as well. So we've got New Guinea here, and it's thought that there used to be land connecting Australia to New Guinea, which is how these people got to Australia. Then over time, this land almost either got washed away or flooded out, so that land is no longer there anymore. So that's why we've got two complete different islands. Now, if you notice, we've got the island of Australia has been split up into lots of different states that aren't the same states that we call them today. Sorry about that. I just got interrupted by Miss Ryan and Miss McCabe, just for a little chat. Anyway, carrying on. So what I was talking about was the different states here that are completely different to the states that we know Australian being today, and completely different names and different shapes as well, which I thought was really interesting to see. We know this. We know that the Dutch people were there first, but they didn't come to the east coast. They went to the west coast, remember? Because they were the first people there, other than the indigenous people, they called it New Holland. They didn't necessarily sort of settle as much as we did there. So Holland is in Europe, and so it wasn't until we got there on the complete opposite side of the coast when we landed in Botany Bay in Sydney. I can't remember the date. I think it's 1788, and we started then colonising Australia. So we also learned about this the other day about the first fleet, and these were the things that you made yesterday with the boats and everything. And these then arrived at a place called Botany Bay. So here then we've got this South Australia already there now, and we've got then New South Wales that's in there. And what the guy then just said is this word called circumnavigate, which is where he then takes where these people will go round the island and start mapping out the whole country, the whole island there. So these places here had what we call these penal centres. So these are the penal colonies, the ones where we took all of our criminals over there. And then we've heard that word free settlements, which are Adelaide and Perth. They've not been taken over, had criminals taken over there. They just, somebody's landed there and started trying to build things without the help of the criminals there. But it's quite interesting what happened in Perth. So frontier wars is something that we then fought with the indigenous people who were almost just defending their land from us. And we're going to end that video there. So they had this war called the Frontier War, but actually the most destructive thing that almost wiped out all of the Aborigines was smallpox, which was a disease which the Europeans almost brought with them, not on purpose. It's not like they had it in a bag and they just brought it over with them. They had the disease, and then the disease spread through the Aboriginal people and almost wiping them out by the tens of thousands, wiping them out there. So hopefully you've made quite a few notes as we went ahead there. Let me just swap the screen I'm sharing. There we go. And these are some of the notes that I made. So Indigenous Australia's Aboriginal came to Australia from the northern island of Papua New Guinea. It wasn't Papua New Guinea, so it's just New Guinea. So I just need to change that. Between 300 and 700,000 people lived there. Half the time peaceful, half the time hostile with British sailors. That was just a quick note I made. Hostile means sort of violent towards somebody. Two different types of settlements, penal colony and free settlements, and lots of war fought between the British and the natives, but smallpox nearly wiped out the Aborigines. And I'm going to put here in brackets, because I've just heard it there, frontier wars as well. That's what those were. Oh, wrong bracket. That's what those were called there. So hopefully you made quite a bit of a few notes there. The next thing we're going to do is look at this. I need to share this with you. This here, and it's all about the colonisation of Australia. So as just again, I'm going to read through quite a few things here, but then I want you to be making notes as I'm then doing it. Okay. So the first fleet. So we've got a date now, on the 18th of January 1788, the ship to the First Fleet landed at Botany Bay, carrying aboard 1,420 people under the charge of Arthur Phillip. So it wasn't Captain Cook who landed at Botany Bay with these people in the First Fleet. Remember, he was there on his own ship, the Endeavour, and he was just there to explore it. He's the guy who got beached on the coral reef. So then after he arrived, we then sent a fleet of ships over. This was an event that would change Australia forever. So land ownership. I'm not going to read through everything. Obviously, you can just pause the video and make the notes of what you want. But the colonisation of Australia had devastating impact on more than 500 Aboriginal island tribal tribes groups that inhabited the land for over 60,000 years. So think about this. You or all your ancestors have lived in a country for 60,000 years, and then all of a sudden someone else just comes over and decides, no, I'm having it now. So you've got to try and think, well, how would that make me feel then, as somebody who's already living there? And then you think, well, are they in their right to defend their land and fight against the invaders? And then you've got to think, were we in the right or wrong to go over there and try and invade it in the first place? Something for you to think about. Maybe give me your things that you come back to me on the messages or on portfolios with your thoughts. It'd be interesting to see what your thoughts were over that. And then I'm going to move on to this disease one. So the European settlers brought with them many diseases. Like I said, they didn't bring them with them in a box or something. They had these diseases and then passed them on to people. Smallpox, chickenpox, measles, and something called influenza. As these diseases are highly infectious, they spread very quickly and killed many people. And you've got to think about it as well. The indigenous people there did not have the sort of medication we might have had then as well. So it had a huge effect on their numbers. Something else as well is new animals were introduced to the land. So settlers brought and introduced new animals to farming and hunting, and these included cows, sheep, chickens, rabbits, foxes, and goats. Well, then you've got to think then, these animals aren't native to this land, so A, would they survive? And B, if they did survive, what impact would it have had on their actual land? Think about the mess that rabbits make in the wild anyway, with all the burrows and everything like that. They'd never been to this land before, and all of a sudden they're ripping and tearing away all this land so they can survive as well. So huge change there to Australia. And then also the Aboriginal people lost quite a lot of land for farming. We decided, actually, no, we want this land because we want to farm our own crops and what have you as well. So they lost a lot of land for that, just because we want to do some farming. And then I'm going to actually, no, I think this is quite important, the spirituality side of things. Obviously, quite a lot of our people back in the Victorian era were strict Christians, strict Catholics. The Aboriginal people did not believe in this religion. They had their own religion, their own beliefs, and yet we then try to convert them into our using our belief system as well, and almost force them to believe in our belief system as well. And then because of that, then there was lots and lots of conflicts, lots of war with the indigenous people and the British invaders. So you can read that as well about how many people end up dying in the sorts of wars that they had and battles that they had as well. It's not something that is it's something that is really sort of hard hitting and quite important to read about. So hopefully you've made a few notes on those as well. So I'll just nip back over onto this. Sorry, no, I need to get quicker at this, don't I? Onto where are the slides here? So that's the end of your lesson. Hopefully then you've made quite a few notes on in your book, bullet points, because tomorrow we're going to be using those notes then to write our paragraph over our double page spread as well. Again, if you've got any questions, then please let me know on Class Dojo and try and upload your work into the portfolio section. If you're struggling with that, let me know. But it's a lot easier for us to then give you feedback as well. All right, so I shall see you this afternoon for science.